Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Peter Murphy begins now.
Good evening everyone. 2 teenagers who brutally murdered 19-year-old Billy Ray Waters have each been sentenced to 26 years in prison. There were gasps as the judgment was handed down. The victim's family satisfied justice has been served.
From the day he disappeared, Billy Ray Waters' grandmother Denise has called for justice. Today, she felt it had been done, at a huge cost to his young killers.
It's unbelievable. All for a bit of weed. Oh.
The sentence, 26 years in prison for both Jacob Michael Brennan and William Adair Rothwell. Inside court, Justice Robert Pearce recounted the pair's callous murder of Mr Waters in lonesome bushland near Mowbray last year. He was stabbed 18 times in the head, neck and back. Mr Waters cried for mercy, none was given. He was finally killed with a bullet to the back of the head. It was 2 weeks before police found his body. One of the few mitigating factors working in the offender's favour were their early guilty pleas, yet the severity of the sentence caused some surprise.
One of the young boys' mum's in there at the moment and she's just as sort of shocked as what I am.
Justice Pearce described Mr Brennan and Mr Rothwell's actions as a betrayal, as they tricked their friend into a fateful trap. The planned and intentional nature of the killing was a chief consideration when handing down their sentences. It's left the victim's family with an eternal scar.
The why question is never going to be answered. It's just something that's never going to be sort of solved as to why it happened. You don't take somebody's life for an ounce of dope. There's a problem there somewhere.
The pair will be eligible for parole after 15 years. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmania is set to get a basketball team to play in the NBL with a key piece of the complex puzzle solved today. The Glenorchy City Council has voted to sell the Derwent Entertainment Centre to the state government, which will upgrade the facility so it can become the team's base.
The head of the state and the NBL, together in bouncing spirits at an iconic Tasmanian venue, now given the green light for sale.
The state government will purchase the deck and Wilkinson's Point from the Glenorchy City Council.
Big day for the NBL, I think big day for Tasmania. We couldn't be more proud.
The decision voted unanimously today in a special meeting by the Glenorchy City Council, with the state government to fork out $8 million on the venue and a further $40 million on major upgrades.
This development and the Wilkinson's Point precinct development will not only create up to 1,200 jobs, but it will generate over $100 million worth of direct economic activity into our broader economy.
The deal includes an in-principle agreement for Tasmania to get an NBL team from next year. The government says the majority of home games would be played at the deck and at least 2 in northern Tasmania.
I love the idea that the kids and the families are going to get something that they can really get behind that's truly theirs. It's for all of Tasmania. We intend to play as much as we can all around the state. So very, very excited.
The sale is expected to be formalised in the coming months, as the NBL owner sets his sights on a $150 million master plan for Wilkinson's Point, subject to planning approvals.
That will deliver jobs to our local community, and a community that desperately needs more jobs in it.
The task now to develop our brand.
We'll put it back to the actual fans and ask them for advice, and then we might narrow it down. And we want to land on a name pretty quickly over the next few months. Name, uniform, all those things, I think give it an identity is very important.
Construction is expected to take 5 years. Ruby Kamain, 7 Tasmania News.
Meanwhile, here in Tasmania, our government says it's taking action to protect the state against the virus, assembling its Emergency Management Committee to respond to any escalation. But there's also a glimmer of hope for parts of our tourism sector struggling with the loss of a key market, with confirmation of several cruise ships redirecting to the state.
Docked on the wharf, this cruise ship was meant to be heading towards Asia, but as international cruise lines make urgent changes to itineraries, it's one of 7 to be diverted to Tasmania as the deadly coronavirus spreads. An unexpected boost for business, bringing hundreds of visitors straight to our doorstep. Welcome news for struggling tourism regions.
It has been a difficult season for regional tourism. The figures were down, and the bushfires bushfires and the coronavirus have further impacted on that.
The ships will make stops in Hobart, Burnie and Port Arthur, but more could be on the way. It's left the regions hoping the extra tourists will venture out of the cities.
It is always a challenge to see the cruise ship visitors disperse to regional areas. We only ever get a small proportion of those visitors, but every extra visitor is more than welcome in these areas.
Yesterday, the virus was given pandemic status in Australia. The Premier today saying the government's taking new precautions to keep Tasmanians safe.
We've taken the important step of putting in place the State Emergency Management Committee and also the Ministerial Emergency Management Committee as well, to ensure that should we need to respond, we are well placed to do so.
39 tests have been conducted here, but as they've come back negative, Tasmania remains coronavirus free. Michelle Wisby, 7 Tasmania News.
A man in his 20s who was involved in a South Launceston home invasion which resulted in an elderly man being bashed has been sentenced to 4 years and 3 months in prison. Harley Sturziker of Rochely appeared in the Launceston Supreme Court over the incident in Heather Street in May last year. He will be eligible for parole after half of the sentence has been served. Questions remain over just who will foot the bill for the Royal Hobart Hospital redevelopment lagging behind schedule. It was revealed yesterday the opening of the long-awaited K-Block site has been delayed indefinitely as the build isn't up to standard. But it remains unclear if the project's contractor, John Holland Fairbrother, will face any penalties for the delay.
The government is entitled to claim penalties from the contractor for late delivery of the project. The contract provides for claims of several $1,000s a day past the date of practical completion.
The Health Minister said it's a commercial matter that she's unable to comment on. Recreational shooters fear they're being targeted by criminals following a recent spate of gun thefts across the state. Firearms have been stolen from at least 4 properties in recent weeks, with one home taking heavy damage from brazen burglars.
Gashes mark the walls. A smashed window is now boarded up. The criminals who raided Jessica and Peter Priest's home knew exactly what they were after.
2 rifles and a pistol.
His licensed firearms were locked in a safe stored in a closet. Thieves left a trail of destruction, using a car to haul it out. Other valuables in the house were left untouched.
It doesn't seem like their first time that they've done this sort of thing. It was definitely targeted for the firearms, the way the house has been sort of damaged and what they've done to do it.
It's one of 4 burglaries involving firearms in recent weeks. Weapons have been taken from homes in Cressy, Launceston and the Derwent Valley. Recreational shooters who spend big on security say it's time for tougher punishments.
For a 3-month minimum sentence for people caught stealing firearms.
A parliamentary report has recommended reviewing legislation into theft and sentencing. The government is now considering that report. In a statement, Tasmania Police says there appears to be a strong market for illicit firearms and criminals appear to be targeting them. The most recent statistics show there have been 33 firearm thefts in the state compared to 21 at the same point the year before. Police also adding every opportunity is used to take guns off the streets with a permanent amnesty. Making matters worse for the Priest family, their entire life savings were in the safe, setting their home deposit back to zero.
You know, they've taken a big dream of ours for our family. We've only been married for 2 years and they've taken that. You know, it meant everything to us for our kids. So.
But they also fear what the weapons will be used for.
Knowing that my guns could be used for other things that aren't good is that's not nice to know either.
Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
A kitten has been killed in an overnight fire which authorities say was deliberately lit. Crews arrived at the Herdsman's Cove property just before midnight, finding the fire was started when several chairs on the home's veranda were set alight. A man and his several animals were inside the Fisher Drive home at the time. Most of the pets and the resident managed to find their way out.
He had to escape through the rear window by smashing the window because the windows were wind out instead of sliding. So he smashed the glass and escaped through the rear windows. We believe he didn't suffer any injuries as a result of that.
Police say the fire caused around $180,000 damage. Authorities are urging anyone with information to contact Crime Stoppers. Tasmanian authorities have released the first set of data under new laws to regulate the short stay accommodation sector. It reveals 1 in 50 Tasmanian houses are being listed on websites like Airbnb and Stays. The Hobart Council area had the highest number of properties, more than 1,200, while Glamorgan Spring Bay on the east coast was second with 550 listings. More than 40% of properties were also recorded as being the owner's principal place of residence. The HMAS Stewart has sailed into its ceremonial home port for the first time in more than half a decade. Almost 200 Royal Australian Navy officers and sailors will spend the next 3 days in Devonport with a jam-packed schedule planned.
The sailors secured and steadied the ship as it arrived into the port this morning. The 180-strong crew on board finding their feet after 2 weeks at sea, crossing Bass Strait while taking part in warfare training.
We step up and work through our high-end warfighting skills, fighting aircraft, submarine and other ships, to certify our ships ready for their deployment schedules for the remainder of the year.
It's usually a bit of a rough patch of water, particularly this time of the year, but it's great to be able to train in an environment like that.
HMAS Stewart was commissioned in 2003. There are currently 3 Tasmanians on the ship.
It's a great honour for all of us on board.
I'm really excited and really proud to come, be able to show my friends and family around the ship. I haven't been in the Navy for 6 years. This is my first time back in Tasmania with the Navy, so I've been really looking forward to this port.
The last time this warship visited Devonport was in 2014. Tomorrow, hundreds will line the city streets from midday for the Freedom of Entry parade.
It's always the greatest honour that can be bestowed upon a military unit to conduct a Freedom of Entry march.
Navy personnel will also be getting involved with the community.
We're playing some sport against local sporting teams and also assisting with the World Series Para Triathlon that's taking place.
The ship will leave Devonport on Monday morning. Letitia Wallace, 7 Tasmanian News.
Launceston's Mia King will make her AFLW debut after being selected for the Kangaroos in their clash against the Gold Coast Suns. Coach Scott Gowans delivered the news over FaceTime to the 18-year-old who will start the game on the bench. It'll be a nightmare for commentators though, with Alicia King, Emma King and now Mia King all in the side.
Now we're going to have an issue because we've got Big King, we've got Little King, so what are we going to call you?
I don't know. That's challenging. Maybe just Tractor.
Tractor. All right, Tractor it is.
Tomorrow's game will be the first AFLW fixture at North Melbourne's traditional home, Arden Street. Hobart canoeist Daniel Watkins is trading Tasmania's wilderness for the Tokyo Games. The 24-year-old is now locked in to represent Australia in the C1 and he's coming home to celebrate. Making an Olympic team is never easy, especially when it all hangs on one final run, like it did for Daniel Watkins at the selection trials on the weekend.
And even during that race, it was still open to 4 different people who could have been selected, so no one was narrowed out and it really came down to the final run, so mostly nerves through that last race.
He's now destined for his first Olympics, but instead of popping champagne, he's heading home to the wilderness.
Do a lot of camping, I think, over the next couple of days. It's what me and my friends love doing.
It'll be a final break before Watkins splits his time between Sydney and Tokyo. Unlike many athletes who spend hours in high-performance centres, Watkins prefers to make his way around the rugged landscape of his home state. The Olympic dream is clearly a byproduct of a love for the outdoors.
I got into the sport mostly through paddling rivers and camping and exploring, and not so much through the side of a sports facility.
A lifestyle many Olympians can only dream of. More than 300 athletes will fill Devonport for the annual triathlon tomorrow. For the first time, the coastal city has secured a World Series event, with para-athletes vying for points to qualify for Tokyo.
Look, it's just awesome to step up to a world-class event. And you know, you don't get a whole bunch of world-class events coming to Tasmania, and you know, to hold one in this region is awesome for the area and the state.
Organisers say there is a strong contingent of para-athletes this year.
95% of the para-athlete field, which is 70 in total, and there was actually 50 on a wait list waiting to get into the event as well. They come from all sorts of places: Kazakhstan, China, USA, Spain, Italy, all over the world. It's amazing.
The action kicks off tomorrow morning with the elite event from 3 p.m. Tasmania's partnership with the Collingwood Magpies netball team has been extended for another 3 years. It means super netball matches will continue to be held in the state, while the Magpies will host development clinics for local players. The $1.75 million contract also keeps the Tasmanian Magpies in the Australian Netball League, which feeds into the super netball competition. Netball had the highest female participation rate of all sports in Tasmania last year, with more than 7,000 registered players.
Good evening. 22 was the state's top today across Launceston and Devonport, Hobart and Burnie reaching a high of 20. 19 about Flinders Island, Smithton and Low Head, Grove and Strawn 17, King Island 18. On the close-up shows cloud about the western and central areas of the state, mostly clear skies elsewhere. Further out, cloud bands over the Tasman Sea associated with frontal systems. Tomorrow, a cold front is approaching Tasmania from the southwest, while troughs and low centres remain over the rest of Australia. West to northwesterly winds tomorrow 15 to 25 knots, swells up to 4.5 metres in the west and south and below 1 metre in the north. A gale warning is current for southern coastal waters from Tasman Island to Low Rocky Point for westerly winds, and a strong wind warning for north-eastern coastal waters from the northern tip of Flinders Island to St Helens Point. Tomorrow's forecast now, 25 and sunny at Hobart, Maydena 20, mostly sunny at Oatlands. In the north, partly cloudy across Launceston and Devonport, Lyowini mostly sunny and 17. Burnie tomorrow partly cloudy and 21, light showers and 20 about Strawn and Marrawar. St Helens and Orford sunny with a high of 24 and 23 at Swansea. The UV forecast mostly very high 8s across the state. Looking ahead to the 3-day forecast, Sunday showers about the west extending statewide in the afternoon. Monday fine about the southeast, possible showers elsewhere. And Tuesday fine apart from early morning showers about the west and far south. Capital cities partly cloudy and 28 in Perth tomorrow. Melbourne a high of 23 and mostly sunny and 27 in Adelaide. And currently Hobart mostly sunny and 18, Launceston 20 and Devonport mostly sunny and 19. That's all for weather tonight.
And that's all our news for now. I'll be back later with updates. Thanks for joining us this evening. Good night.